The week of December 7th, 2009, nations of the world are coming together to meet again in Copenhagen, Denmark, and they're coming to talk about and negotiate a new climate deal. They're coming together to address the issues of greenhouse gas emissions and what the nations of the world can do in a concerted way to lower those emissions. What we're looking at is the need to hold global temperatures to no more than a 2-degree rise in average temperature. To achieve that, we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the world by 80% by the year 2050. That's a very ambitious goal, and there are a lot of things we need to do to achieve that ambitious goal. Copenhagen's a start.
I've been studying polar bears for about 25 years around the Arctic and looking at the ecology of the species. The major problem of a warming climate for polar bears is that it changes the sea ice dynamics in the Arctic. It changes the date of freeze-up, so the bears that are on land around us right now are waiting to go back out on the sea ice and start feeding again. It also affects when the sea ice breaks up in the spring and when the bears are forced ashore. These bears make their living out on the sea ice. There's really almost nothing for them to eat on land here. They rely on seals as their primary food source, and by changing the sea ice dynamics, we're really forcing the bears away from their food. And we take away their food, they don't store enough energy, and that really has negative impacts on the populations. This population around us here in Churchill, Manitoba has declined by about 22% over the last decade. That's a combination of an earlier breakup and a later freeze-up, forcing the animals to use up their energy stores. And the big problem is that the females are not able to produce as many cubs, and the cubs that they do produce are not as large, and small cubs just really don't survive in the Arctic.
The issue of climate change is something that's impacting the world already. It's impacting the Arctic, where we are here in Churchill, Manitoba, more quickly than any place else. It's a very time-sensitive issue. We have a limited amount of time globally to do the things we need to do to reduce greenhouse gas emissions soon enough to have an effect. The concern is if we don't take action and aggressive action soon enough, we're likely to reach certain tipping points in the global atmospheric system. Once we're beyond those points, it's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to turn these events around, to do anything about lowering greenhouse gas emissions or to stop the temperature from increasing beyond 2 degrees Celsius. And if we pass those points, we will see fundamental changes in the Earth's ecosystem. What we lack right now is the legal framework between nations to sort of enforce those goals. There's a lot of talk about, I'm from a Western nation, we're not the problem, the developing nations are the problem. You hear that here in Canada, this problem wasn't created in Canada, so the solution doesn't need to be created in Canada. Well, the problem was created everywhere. If you compare emissions from countries like the US and Germany to China and India, we far exceed their emissions. So we do have a greater responsibility to reduce our emissions and to take a leadership role in this. There's every indication from climate scientists and some new work done by Steve Amstrup at USGS that's coming out in the next month or so, where he's reanalyzed the paper he did in 2007 that sort of triggered a lot of the concern about polar bears, that by 2050 we would lose 2/3 of the world polar bear population. That projection was based on a climate model where we did nothing. He's gone back now and reanalyzed that, and he's put in different climate models, mitigation scenarios, where we've actually taken actions to lower greenhouse gas emissions, and each one of those has shown a much more positive outcome for sea ice and for polar bears.
If we do the right thing and can control greenhouse gases, the future for polar bears and the planet as a whole looks a lot better.
To me, it's not a left and right issue, it's not a conservative issue, it's very much a human issue. We need people from all walks of life to step up to the plate and start taking leadership roles. This issue affects everybody. It affects all ecosystems, it affects a host of wildlife, not just polar bears. And so we have to fully understand that, and we all need to get behind solutions. We need to be talking about this within our families, we need to be talking about this in our work life. We need to be talking about this in our private lives. If we're people of faith, we need to be having these discussions in those faith groups. So it's got to be more than what's been done to date. The other thing we can do is we can contact our local, regional, and national leaders, and we can also get involved with local, national, and international groups. So writing your mayors, your governors, your state representatives, your national representatives, letting them know that you're concerned about these issues, that you want them to act on these issues is a great place to start. There are a lot of opportunities out there. People just need to get online, get informed, and get involved.
It's really time for action. We need firm, concrete goals about climate change, and Copenhagen is our opportunity for the world to stand up and say that we actually care about the Arctic, we care about the species that live there, and these are really our early warning devices to tell us that the planet is at risk.
Bureaucratic dithering, political inaction is completely unacceptable on this issue. So the clock is ticking, so these opportunities are coming and going. We have a very limited time to do something about climate change. The next opportunity is in Copenhagen this December. We have to act.